In the heart of southern Tennessee, nestled near the winding Red River, lay the Bellwood Farm. The year was 1817, and the Bell family had called this picturesque land their home for generations. John Bell Sr., a respected farmer, lived there with his wife Elizabeth and their children, establishing a life that seemed tranquil on the surface. However, as autumn leaves began to fall that year, a shadowy presence began to creep into the corners of their lives. It started with faint knocking on doors, a sound dismissed as the wind's playful whim. But the knocks grew more insistent, resonating through the walls like ghostly drumbeats. The family's unease deepened when objects started to shift on their own, and footsteps echoed through empty rooms. As the days turned to weeks, the Bell family found themselves at the mercy of an entity they could neither see nor comprehend. One chilling evening, Elizabeth Bell sat in the kitchen, her eyes fixed on the fire's dancing flames. Suddenly, a voice emerged from the crackling embers. It was low, almost a whisper, yet it resonated with a weight that sent shivers down her spine. The voice spoke of secrets only she knew, and fear took root within her heart. The entity, dubbing itself the Bell Witch, continued its sinister symphony. It spoke in voices familiar and foreign, its words veering from kindness to cruelty in an instant. John Bell Sr., a man of unwavering resolve, was not spared from its attentions. He felt icy fingers trace his spine and heard chilling laughter in the dead of night. As weeks turned into months, the Bell Witch's antics grew more malevolent. It hurled insults at family members, scratched and pinched, and once left young Betsy Bell in a fit of convulsions. Desperate, the Bells turned to their neighbors and friends for help, revealing the horrors they faced. Some dismissed the accounts as mere exaggerations, while others offered prayers and talismans to ward off the unseen menace. The enigmatic saga commenced sometime in 1817, casting John Bell into the midst of an ethereal enigma. The first sign of the entity's presence materialized in the form of an apparition, an eerie amalgamation of a dog's body and a rabbit's head. John Bell fired at the uncanny creature, only to witness its vanishing act. Drew Bell, John's son, encountered an unusual bird perched on a fence, a bird of uncommon proportions that took flight. Meanwhile, Betsy Bell recounted an encounter with a girl garbed in a green dress, swaying from an oak tree's limb. Even Dean, an individual enslaved by the Bell family, experienced the entity's curious pursuits. He spoke of a large black dog doggedly trailing him during his visits to his wife. Soon, the haunting escalated, crossing the threshold into the Bell household. Mysterious knocks reverberated along doors and walls, while sounds of gnawing and invisible canine skirmishes pervaded the atmosphere. Chains seemed to slither along the floor, and the unsettling specter began taking residence in their bedsheets. With time, the entity's actions grew more audacious. Hair was tugged, and scratches marred the children's flesh, with Betsy bearing the brunt of its cruelty through slaps, pinches, and even pinpricks. Desperation led the Bells to confide in their dear friend James Johnston, who subsequently spent a night at the Bell home. To his astonishment, he was confronted with the same uncanny occurrences. Johnston, awakening in the morning, likened the entity to a spirit, just like in the Bible. Word of the paranormal activity spread, beckoning curious souls from distant lands to witness the witch's exploits. Gradually, the enigma evolved into conversations. The entity's voice resonated aloud, responding to inquiries about its identity and motives. It revealed itself as a spirit, once content but now disturbed. The origins of its appearance were intricately woven into tales of a Native American burial mound desecration and elusive treasure hunts. As the entity's powers manifested further, it demonstrated the ability to replicate verbatim two sermons delivered 13 miles apart at the same time, leaving observers astounded. Proficient in biblical verses, it engaged in theological debates and tantalized with tidbits of household gossip. On occasion, it appeared to momentarily depart, only to return with stories of its visits to other homes. To test the entity's authenticity, John Johnston, son of James, devised an intricate riddle known only within his family. The witch astounded them all by correctly mimicking his Dutch step-grandmother's voice and words. Another encounter saw an English visitor from distant shores, whose parents were imitated by the entity, leading to an eerily convincing manifestation. Strangely, amid its malevolence, the entity displayed a peculiar benevolence towards Lucy, John Bell's wife, and extended respect to John Bell Jr. Yet, the entity's intentions grew darker. Referring to John Bell Sr. as Old Jack, Kate ominously vowed to end his life, sealing this fate with curses and afflictions. The climax unfolded with John Bell Sr.'s death, an event attributed to the witch's malevolence. Even in mourning, the entity displayed its capricious nature, singing drinking songs that interrupted the somber atmosphere. The story concluded with the dissolution of Betsy Bell's engagement to Joshua Gardner, at the entity's behest. Promising to return after 7 years, Kate resurfaced in 1828, though Lucy and her sons chose not to entertain its advances, prompting it to eventually depart once more. Intriguingly, even Andrew Jackson, during his military tenure, found himself drawn to the legend. His men, however, fled in fear after their investigation. In 1820, John Bell Sr.'s health began to falter. Doctors were baffled by his mysterious ailments, unable to offer solace. It was during this time that the Bell Witch revealed its motive, declaring that it intended to claim John's life. Despite the family's best efforts, John Bell Sr. passed away, leaving the farm haunted by grief and the Bell Witch's malevolent presence. Years later, in 1894, a local newspaper editor named Martin V. Ingram became intrigued by the tales surrounding the Bell family and the Bell Witch. He painstakingly collected accounts from those who remembered the events and compiled them into a book titled, Authenticated History of the Bell Witch. Ingram's work offered a comprehensive insight into the haunting, intertwining local history with the supernatural. Though skepticism lingers, the legacy of the Bell Witch endures. Visitors to the Bellwood Farms still report faint whispers on the breeze and ghostly echoes in the moonlight. The Bell Witch Cave, once a simple cavern on the property, has become a pilgrimage site for those seeking to uncover the truth behind the legend. As time marches forward, the story of the Bell Witch continues to weave its eerie magic, reminding all who hear it that there are mysteries in this world beyond the grasp of rational explanation, secrets whispered in the shadows and carried on the wind. On the 24th of April in the year 1880, an article surfaced chronicling an eerie occurrence within a haunted house, situated in Springfield, Tennessee. The prevailing mystery centered on distinct knocking sounds emanating from beneath the very floorboards of the dwelling. As the account unfurled, it was revealed that the fourth night of these enigmatic knockings commenced at the striking hour of 10:30 p.m., persisting until the early dawn hours at 4 a.m. The peculiar phenomenon was witnessed by a group of 10 to 12 individuals, who had gathered in earnest to uncover the source of these unsettling sounds. The very abode seemed ensnared in an air of anticipation as these individuals united their efforts. In a subsequent report dated April 26, 1880, the writer shed light on the escalating intrigue surrounding the haunted house. The account unfolded with the revelation that a multitude numbering in the several hundreds had embarked on a pilgrimage to the residence, each driven by the desire to personally experience the phenomenon. A curious detail emerged, as many of these eager seekers opted to spend their nights in vigil, camped out on the property despite the homeowner's appeals to vacate the premises. An eventful Wednesday night, April 28, 1880, saw the residents of the house absent from their abode. However, a smaller group of investigators stationed around the home recounted that they heard the mysterious knocking sounds from a distance of 50 yards. Amidst this unfolding enigma, the journalists seized an opportune moment to draw parallels with the storied Bell Witch legend. In truth, it is an actual fact that several hundred intelligent people of Springfield and vicinity have been so excited over the noise as to go night after night to listen to it. About 30 years ago, Robertson County had a sensation similar to this known as the Bell Witch, and people came from all parts of the country, even as far as New York, to hear or see her. The enigmatic knocking symphony manifested within the confines of the residence belonging to John W. Nuckolls, a respected physician of note. Recent marital ties had united John with Laura Hopkins Jones, an alliance that faced opposition from her own kin. The curious phenomenon inadvertently sowed discord within the couple's relationship. A local carpenter named Gil Walling cast suspicions upon Laura Nuckolls, asserting that the noise could be traced to her usage of an iron ball affixed to a rubber belt, concealed beneath her attire. The investigative spotlight on the couple gradually unveiled a rift, and their separation became official in May of 1880. Events took a darker turn that August when John Nuckolls, the physician, removed his infant child from his estranged wife's custody. This action prompted a dramatic scene through the town's thoroughfares, with his anguished wife Laura following closely in pursuit. The child was eventually returned to Laura Nuckolls, who sought refuge in her father's home, under the roof of Asa Hopkins. An unsettling sequence unfolded in February 1882, as John Nuckolls confronted Laura's father over his yearning to see the child. The altercation escalated, encompassing not only their familial dispute but also the unsettling topic of ghosts. An eyewitness account painted a picture of Knuckles attempting to wield his weapon against his father-in-law, Asa Hopkins. However, intervention averted a tragedy. The day following this explosive confrontation, S.B. Hopkins, John Knuckles' brother-in-law, journeyed from Nashville to Springfield. Armed with a double-barreled shotgun, he confronted John W. Knuckles, a confrontation that ultimately culminated in the fatal discharge of the firearm. The circumstances surrounding this grim incident were fiercely debated, leading to the acquittal of S.B. Hopkins in a murder trial. An intriguing narrative emerged in the journal, Studies in Philology, in the year 1919, when folklorist Tom Pete Cross examined witchcraft in North Carolina. Cross referenced a column from the Nashville Banner, recounting the efforts of a reporter named John C. Cook who, during the 1880s, was dispatched to Robertson County to investigate the possible resurgence of the Bell Witch phenomenon. In these accounts, the convergence of historical events, the supernatural, and human emotions coalesce to weave a tale that continues to intrigue and captivate curious minds. In the annals of time, the story of the Bell Witch continued to ripple through the years, leaving in its wake a trail of peculiar events and anecdotes that kept the mystique alive. In the year 1903, a prophecy emerged, suggesting that the witch might stage a comeback on the centennial anniversary of the Bell family's arrival in Tennessee. Responding to an article from Memphis in August 1903, the Springfield Herald dismissively waved off any local concern about a potential Bell Witch resurgence. Moreover, it leveled an accusation of plagiarism at the Memphis publication. The Herald took the opportunity to assert that the copyright for Ingram's work had passed to his son, Tolbert, who was then employed at the Denver Times. As September rolled around, the local paper expressed incredulity as no reports of the spirit's return in August had surfaced. In 1934, a new voice entered the scene, Charles Bailey Bell, a neurologist and grandson of John Bell Jr., the central figure in the Bell Witch legend. He penned a book titled, The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit. In this literary endeavor, Charles recounted stories gleaned from conversations with his great-aunt Betsy Bell, who shared tales from her later years. Among the accounts were additional episodes, including Andrew Jackson's visit and a harrowing tale of a boy ensnared in the depths of the Bell Witch Cave, ultimately rescued by the witch herself. Charles Bell also unveiled a series of prophecies that had purportedly been imparted to his ancestors by the spirit in 1828. These prophecies included a startling declaration. The witch was poised to make her return in 1935, a remarkable 107 years after her last interaction with the Bell family. The year 1937 ushered in a series of intriguing reports. Lewis Garrison, owner of the farm encompassing the Bell Witch Cave, became privy to unexplained noises emanating from within the depths of the cave. Descendants of the Bell family recounted peculiar incidents, ranging from the sound of an object brushing against a house to a paper-like entity fluttering out of a door only to re-enter through a side portal. Echoes of faint music wafted from a distant piano, adding to the mystique. In a curious turn of events, a group from the local Epworth League, while partaking in a wiener roast near the Bell Witch Cave on a July evening in 1937, reported an eerie encounter. Joking about the legend, they suddenly beheld a feminine figure perched atop a cliff overlooking the cave. The sight induced panic, prompting many to flee the scene in haste. According to subsequent reports, a minister within the group later debunked the sighting, attributing it to the interplay of moonlight upon a rock. However, the enigma endured, with some offering alternative explanations. In the pages of history, November 1965 emerged with a tale involving an antique oak rocking chair, rumored to have once belonged to attorney Charlie Willett, a descendant of the Bell family. This chair, having found its way into the possession of Mrs. J.C. Adams, an antique store owner, triggered an astonishing sequence of events. As a customer rocked in the chair, a question about belief in the supernatural precipitated a series of uncanny occurrences. 2 weeks later, the customer's daughter embarked on a journey, impelled by a voice that echoed her mother's experiences. Following this mystical guide, she stumbled upon an artifact, a black iron kettle, overturned in a field. Beneath it lay a precious pearl buckle, estimated by a jeweler to be between 160 to 200 years old. Charles Romaine Willett, an attorney and son of Sarah Elizabeth Bell, held a rich tapestry of history and intrigue. At the tender age of 16, he ventured into the world of newspaper journalism, eventually becoming the first managing editor of the Nashville Tennessean in 1907. His life encompassed diverse endeavors, including professional baseball and legislative duties. A colorful figure in his community, Charlie Willett's affectionate companionship with Miss Jerry Cullum Gardner added an air of romantic mystique. Despite community speculations, they refrained from marriage, attributed variously to familial obligations or the inclination to avert any potential jinx tied to their ancestral legacies. In the corridors of recollection, Bonnie Hanneline recounted an episode from her childhood in 1944. Playing hooky from her English class, she embarked on a cave exploration, borrowing a lantern from Mrs. Garrison. This audacious adventure took a turn toward the supernatural, as her lantern mysteriously extinguished within the cave. The young girl recounted rekindling the light only to witness its inexplicable extinguishing once more. Overwhelmed by fear, she navigated the cave's watery path in darkness until she reached the entrance, where she stumbled upon an open can of pork and beans and marshmallows. The revelation of escaped fugitives found in the cave later that evening added an eerie layer to her experience, leading her to credit the witch with guiding her away from the intruders. The year 1977 brought forth intriguing episodes. Soldiers from the nearby Fort Campbell ventured to the Bell Witch Cave, only for one of them to be inexplicably grabbed around the chest by an unseen force while sitting on a rock, revealing the continuing hold of the legend's mystique. In the year 1986, David Gerard, a staff writer, and Bill Wilson, a photographer and member of the National Speleological Society, were granted the rare privilege of spending the night in the cave. As they settled into the first cave room, they were startled by a noise emanating from the depths, prompting them to retreat. A sequence of inexplicable sounds and sensations followed, culminating in a high-pitched scream that prompted their hasty exit, leaving the darkness of the cave behind. With 1987 came a peculiar tale involving H.C. Sanders, who found himself in an uncanny encounter 20 years prior. Stranded near the Red River across from the Bell Witch Cave due to an empty gas tank, he embarked on a journey towards town. A seemingly ordinary rabbit emerged from the woods, inexplicably trailing him. As he quickened his pace, the rabbit matched his stride, even as he broke into a run. Ultimately, the creature addressed him in a startling twist, uttering the words, "Hell of a race we had there, wasn't it?" In this tapestry of tales, the Bell Witch continued to weave her enigmatic influence through the generations, leaving behind a trail of inexplicable occurrences, enduring legends, and moments that continue to defy rational explanation.